When my 7-year-old daughter said, "Mom, I found this in Dad's car," I expected it to be something silly, maybe a toy or a crumpled receipt. But it wasn't. With wide, innocent eyes, she held out the proof I had been too blind or too desperate to see. In that tiny hand was the weapon that betrayed him completely, stripping away every illusion I had about love, loyalty, and family. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. Sarah Thompson never thought her life could fall apart on an ordinary Saturday morning. It was one of those days where the sun seemed too bright for the mess of emotions stirring inside her. She was in the kitchen, folding laundry while her 7-year-old daughter Emily played on the floor with her dolls. The smell of pancakes still lingered in the air, but Sarah's heart wasn't in. David had left early again, muttering something about an urgent meeting at the office. Sarah tried not to notice how often those urgent meetings had become part of their life. She told herself he was working hard for them, for Emily, for their home. That's what a good wife was supposed to believe, wasn't it? Mommy! Sarah looked down. Emily's wide blue eyes blinked up at her. In her small hand she held something shiny. "I found this in Daddy's car," Emily said. "Is it yours?" Sarah frowned and reached for the object. It was a gold bracelet. Simple, elegant, but expensive. She turned it over and froze. On the inside, delicately carved, were the letters, LH. Her chest tightened. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Emily tugged on her sleeve. "Mommy, do you like it? Daddy had it under the seat. I thought maybe he bought it for you." Sarah forced a smile, though her lips trembled. "Oh, sweetheart, thank you for showing me. That's very kind of you." She gently closed her hand over the bracelet, as if hiding a dangerous weapon from her daughter's innocent eyes. Emily tilted her head, unconvinced. "So, is it for you?" Sarah kissed the top of her daughter's head. "I'm not sure yet, baby. Why don't you go play in your room for a bit?" When Emily skipped away, Sarah finally let her face crumble. Her pulse pounded in her ears. The initials burned into her mind. LH. She whispered it aloud, barely daring to hear it in her own voice. LH. Louise Harris. Her sister, Grace Louise Harris. The younger sister everyone adored. Grace was 3 years younger, lively, full of charm. The kind of woman who drew attention without even trying. David always said she reminded him of Sarah when they first met. Sarah had laughed at that once. Now the thought turned her stomach. "No," Sarah muttered, shaking her head. "It can't be. It's just a coincidence." But the memory surfaced uninvited. David's hand lingering too long on Grace's shoulder at last. Year's Thanksgiving dinner. His laugh a little too quick at her jokes. The way he always offered to drive her home. Sarah had brushed it off as kindness. Family closeness. Nothing more. Now the bracelet lay heavy in her palm, and every moment replayed like poison dripping into her heart. That evening, Sarah sat in the living room, the bracelet hidden in her pocket. David finally came, home past 9, smelling faintly of cologne and something she couldn't place. His smile was too bright, too practiced. "Hey," he said casually, tossing his keys on the counter. "Why are you still up?" Sarah swallowed hard. Her throat felt raw, but she forced the words out. "David, Emily found something in your car today." His eyes flickered for a split second, then his face smoothed into a mask. "Oh yeah? What was it?" Sarah pulled out the bracelet and held it up. Her hand shook. "This." For a moment, silence filled the room. David's jaw tightened, then he chuckled low, almost mocking. "You think I'm sneaking around because of a stupid bracelet?" he said, stepping closer. "Jesus, Sarah, Do you hear yourself? Her voice cracked. It has initials. LH. That's Grace's. He cut her off with a sharp laugh. So now you're accusing me of sleeping with your sister? Are you insane? God, you sound pathetic. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. I'm not insane, David. He grabbed the bracelet from her hand so hard it hurt. This could belong to anyone. Client. Coworker. Maybe it fell into my car by mistake. And here you are, spinning wild stories in your head. I just want the truth, Sarah whispered. The truth. His voice dripped with contempt. The truth is, you're paranoid. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is for me? To come home after a long day, working to keep a roof over our heads, only to be interrogated like some criminal. Her tears spilled. I wasn't. You were. He threw the bracelet onto the couch. You're so insecure, Sarah. No wonder I don't even want to come home some nights. Who would, with you acting like this? The words hit like knives. She pressed a hand to her chest, as if she could hold the pieces of her breaking heart together. David shook his head in disgust. God, look at you, crying again. You wonder why people don't take you seriously? Because you're weak. Always whining. Always suspicious. Sarah bit her lip so hard it bled. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but her voice was gone. Sarah didn't sleep that night. She lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing, the bracelet burning in her mind. She remembered the way Grace always praised David, how she once teased, "If Sarah ever gets tired of you, I'll take you myself." Everyone had laughed, Sarah included. But what if it hadn't been a joke? She turned to face David in the dark. His features looked calm, innocent, almost angelic. Yet the cruel words he'd thrown at her hours earlier echoed louder than the silence around them. Her heart whispered one truth she didn't want to hear. She wasn't just losing her husband. She was losing herself. The next morning, Sarah tried to act normal. She made Emily's breakfast, packed her school bag, and forced a smile when Emily asked if Daddy was coming to the school play that afternoon. He said he's busy, sweetheart, Sarah murmured, cutting Emily's toast into little stars. But maybe he'll try. She hated lying, hated making excuses for him. Emily deserved better than a father who was too wrapped up in secrets to care about her recital. David came down the stairs just as Emily skipped out the door with her backpack. He looked polished, his tie neat, his cologne strong. Sarah's eyes lingered on him, searching for guilt, for some crack in his armor. Instead, he smirked. Still brooding over a bracelet? Her voice trembled. David, I can't stop thinking about it. It's not just any bracelet. It has Grace's initials. He leaned closer, his words sharp as glass. Then stop thinking. You're embarrassing yourself. If you keep acting crazy, don't be surprised if people start believing you are crazy. Sarah's stomach twisted. Are you saying I can't even talk to you about what's hurting me? He gave a mocking laugh. Talk to me? All you ever do is nag and cry. You think that's attractive? You think that makes me want to stay in this house? The words pierced her. She wanted to ask him why he had grown so cruel, but she already knew the answer because he could. Later that day, Sarah tried to distract herself by visiting her mother's house. Grace was already there, lounging on the sofa, sipping coffee as though she owned the place. Sarah, you look awful, Grace said bluntly, eyeing her sister up and down. Are you not sleeping? You should take better care of yourself. No wonder David looked so restless. The words stung like a hidden dagger. Sarah forced a smile. I've just been tired. Emily's school, schedule, the house, everything. Grace smirked, twirling a strand of her hair. Well, not everyone can keep up, I suppose. Sarah clenched her fists under the table. The bracelet's initials screamed at her from the back of her mind. Was it possible? Could her own sister be the shadow in her marriage? She tried to push the thought away, but then Grace leaned forward, her voice syrupy sweet. David's such a gentleman, though. always checking in on me, making sure I'm okay. You're lucky to have someone like him. Sarah's throat closed up. The words felt like acid. Lucky. She was supposed to feel lucky while her heart bled in silence. That evening, David didn't come home for dinner. Sarah sat at the table with Emily, staring at the untouched food. Emily poked her peas with a fork. "Mommy," she said softly, "why is Daddy always gone? Did I do something wrong?" Sarah's heart broke. She reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. "No, baby. You did nothing wrong. Daddy's just busy." Tears threatened, but she swallowed them down. She had to be strong for Emily. But when Emily went to bed, Sarah couldn't hold it in anymore. She stood in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the counter, sobbing silently so her daughter wouldn't hear. Her reflection in the window looked like a stranger. Hollow eyes, tear-stained cheeks, a woman. Unraveling. That was when David walked in. He took one look at her and sneered. "Crying again? God, Sarah, it's pathetic. Do you ever stop?" She wiped her face quickly. I'm scared, David. I feel like I'm losing you. I can't shake the thought about the bracelet, about Grace." He cut her off, slamming his hand on the counter. "Enough. You're obsessed with this stupid idea. If you had half a brain, you'd know Grace has better things to do than entertain your paranoia. Maybe that's the problem. You're so insecure, you drag everyone down with you." Her voice cracked. "Why are you so cruel to me?" "Because you make it easy," he said coldly. "You're weak, Sarah. Weak and boring. You should be grateful I haven't left you already." The words gutted her. She stood frozen as he walked upstairs, leaving her trembling in the kitchen, broken. That night, Sarah lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. Every cruel word replayed in her mind. The bracelet's glint haunted her. Grace's smirk, David's contempt, her family's blindness. Everything closed in on her like a noose tightening around her neck. And for the first time, Sarah wondered if she was truly alone in a war she never asked to fight. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and how did this story speak to you? Sarah stood at the kitchen sink, her fingers tightening around the sponge as David scrolled through his phone at the table, not even glancing at her. She had been turning the bracelet over and over in her mind for days. The image of the initials LH had become a ghost, haunting her waking hours and keeping her up at night. Finally, she drew in a shaky breath and tried again. "David," she said softly, her voice trembling. He didn't look up. I can't stop thinking about that bracelet. Please, just tell me the truth. If there's nothing going, unsay it. Look at me and say it." David sighed loudly, tossing his phone down with a smirk. "Are we back to that again? Jesus, Sarah, you really don't get tired of embarrassing yourself, do you?" Her cheeks flushed. "I'm not trying to embarrass myself. I need reassurance." He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "Reassurance? From me? You think I have time to babysit your paranoia? God, Sarah, you're pathetic. You hear yourself." Her lips trembled. "I'm your wife. Shouldn't I be able to ask questions when something doesn't feel right?" His laugh was sharp, cruel. "Wife, that's rich. A wife should trust her husband. You're nothing but insecure. Maybe if you actually acted like Grace, ambitious, confident, not whining all the time, I'd want to come home to you." The words were like a slap. She turned away quickly so he wouldn't see the tears rushing to her. The family dinner came a week later. Sarah dreaded it, but she couldn't refuse. Her mother had insisted everyone gather. "It's been too long since we've all been together," she'd said cheerfully. Sarah dressed carefully, trying to hide her hollow eyes with makeup. Emily skipped by her side, full of energy. David looked perfect, as always, smiling, polished, charming. At the dinner table, Sarah tried to fade into the background. She passed dishes, poured drinks, and stayed quiet. But David shone like a star. He laughed with her uncles, joked with her cousins, made her mother beam with pride. And then he turned his attention to Grace. "You know, Grace," he said loudly, raising his glass, "you've really made something of yourself. You're driven, ambitious, and you've got a bright future ahead. You remind me of someone I once knew." Grace smirked knowingly. "Oh? Who?" "Sarah," David said with a chuckle, glancing at his wife. "Back before she got so paranoid." The table erupted in laughter. Even their mother laughed, shaking her head fondly. Sarah sat frozen, her fork trembling in her hand. David leaned back, grinning. "I mean, Grace has so much energy. She's independent, confident. Meanwhile, Sarah's always worried about the smallest things. Isn't that right, honey?" All eyes turned to her. Heat rushed to Sarah's face. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her throat felt tight, her chest constricted. Grace gave a soft laugh, covering her mouth. "David, don't tease her." But the damage was done. Everyone chuckled, nodding along. Sarah forced a weak smile, pretending it was all a harmless joke, while inside, her heart shattered piece by piece. The humiliation burned her like fire. At that table, surrounded by her own family, she felt smaller than she ever had in her life. Later that night, she called her best friend, Lisa. "Lisa," Sarah whispered, tears running down her cheeks. "I think David's cheating on me. Maybe with Grace. He humiliates me in front of everyone. And the bracelet." "Sarah, stop," Lisa interrupted gently. "Don't say things like that. Everyone adores David. If you start throwing around accusations, you'll only push him away." "But what if it's true?" Sarah's voice broke. "I can't shake the feeling." Lisa sighed. "Sometimes we create problems in our own heads, Sarah. Look, you're stressed. You need to calm down, focus on Emily, and stop overthinking. David's a good man. Don't ruin your marriage by being insecure." Sarah clutched the phone, stunned. Even Lisa, even her best friend thought she was the problem. "Right?" Sarah whispered, her tears falling faster. "Maybe you're right." But deep down, her gut screamed the truth she didn't want to face. That night, Sarah curled up in bed beside David, who scrolled through his phone, smiling at messages she couldn't see. She wanted to ask who it was. She wanted to scream, but she stayed, silent, swallowing her pain like poison. Her heart whispered again. Everyone sides with him. Everyone believes him. And if you say one wrong word, you'll lose everything. Still, the bracelet's weight never left her mind. The humiliation from the family dinner clung to Sarah like a second skin. No matter how many times she washed her face, she couldn't scrub away the sting of David's words or the echo of her family's laughter. She tried to act normal in front of Emily, smiling, reading bedtime stories, packing lunches. But inside, she was unraveling thread by thread. Every time David came home late, every time he silenced his phone when she walked into the room, the suspicion clawed at her chest. She told herself she was imagining things. She told herself she was being paranoid, just like everyone said. But late one Thursday evening, when David claimed he had a late client meeting, something inside her snapped. She couldn't take the not knowing anymore. When he left the house, Sarah grabbed her keys and followed. She kept a safe distance, her heart pounding as she trailed his car through the quiet streets. He didn't drive toward the office. Instead, he took the highway toward the city. Her palms grew slick on the steering wheel. "Please, God, let me be wrong," she whispered, tears blurring her vision. David pulled into a dimly lit parking lot outside an upscale restaurant. Sarah parked a few cars away, her breath shallow, her body trembling. Minutes later, she saw her. Grace, her sister. Grace stepped out of her own car, her hair shining under the streetlights, her lips painted red. She walked straight to David, her heels clicking against the pavement. Sarah froze, her heart thundering in her chest. She wanted to scream, to throw open her door and stop what she was about to see, but she couldn't move. David reached out, smiling in a way Sarah hadn't seen in years. He touched Grace's cheek tenderly, then leaned down and kissed her. Not a polite sibling kiss, not a playful peck, an intimate, lingering kiss, the kind of kiss that belonged to lovers, not a husband and his wife's sister. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Her entire body shook violently as if the earth itself had cracked beneath her. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. The bracelet, the jokes, the constant comparisons, every cruel word David had hurled at her. They all made sense now. It was her. It had always been Grace. Tears streamed down her face as she gripped the steering wheel, forcing herself not to scream. She pressed her forehead against it, sobbing quietly, afraid they might hear her. Through the blur of her tears, she watched them walk into the restaurant hand in hand. Her husband, her sister. The betrayal was too sharp to process. She remembered the Thanksgiving dinners, the family birthdays, the afternoons when Grace had come over, laughing and teasing David, while Sarah told herself she was imagining their closeness. She hadn't been imagining. She had been blind. Hours later, Sarah drove home in silence, her body numb, her mind replaying the image over and over. By the time David walked into the house after midnight, she was sitting on the couch, her face pale, her hands trembling. "Why are you still awake?" he asked casually, loosening his tie. Her lips quivered. "I saw you." He stopped, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" "I followed you," she whispered, tears spilling. "I saw you with her, with Grace. You kissed her." For a moment his face hardened. Then he laughed, a cruel, mocking laugh that made her blood run cold. "You're unbelievable," he said. "Do you know how insane you sound right now? Following me? Stalking me? No wonder Grace feels sorry for you." Her breath hitched. "Don't you dare bring her into this. She's my sister. She's more of a woman than you'll ever be," he snapped, his voice low and venomous. "At least, she knows how to make me feel alive instead of dragging me down with endless tears and insecurities." The words gutted her. She crumpled on the couch, sobbing openly. "Stop crying," David spat. "You look pathetic. Do you think Emily needs to grow up watching her mother act like this? Pull yourself together. Or maybe I'll find someone who doesn't make me want to stay away every night." He turned and walked upstairs, leaving Sarah in the dark, broken and shaking. That night, Sarah lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the sound of her sobs muffled into her pillow. She thought about Emily's innocent face, about the way she had asked if Daddy's absence was her fault. How could she explain that her father had chosen another woman? Not just any woman, her own sister. The betrayal sank deep into her bones, burning her from the inside out. Sarah realized, with a crushing weight, that she wasn't just unloved. She was unwanted, rejected, by the man she had given her life to, betrayed by the sister she had trusted most, abandoned by everyone who should have protected her. And as the night dragged on, she understood one thing clearly. This was only the beginning of her suffering. Sarah felt like her life was split into before and after. Before the kiss she had witnessed in that parking lot, there had been doubt, fear, and denial. But after there was only truth, ugly and undeniable. Her husband was having an affair with her sister. The knowledge poisoned everything. Every memory, every shared laugh, every family dinner. All of it now felt dirty, tainted. She wanted to rip out the part of her that had ever trusted them. But she couldn't. It lived in her bones. Sarah waited 2 days before she went to see Grace. She needed time to breathe, to think, though. No amount of time could prepare her for what she knew she had to do. Grace was at their mother's house when Sarah arrived. The smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen, and Grace sat at the table in a silk blouse, scrolling through her phone, her lips curved in that smug little smile Sarah had grown to hate. Sarah's hands shook as she stepped in. "We need to talk." Grace looked up, unfazed. "About what?" "Don't play dumb," Sarah snapped, her voice breaking. "I saw you. With David. Don't you dare. Deny it." For a split second, Grace's eyes flickered. But then she leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "So you finally figured it out." Sarah's heart dropped. She had prayed, even after seeing it with her own eyes, that Grace might show shame or regret. But there was none. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "How could you? You're my sister. You knew what he meant to me. You knew what our family meant. And you—" Grace cut her off coldly. "David deserves someone younger. Someone who believes in him. You've become a burden, Sarah. Always crying, always doubting. He told me himself how exhausting it is living with you." The words hit like a blade. "A burden? I gave him my life, Grace. Carried his child. I stood by him when he had nothing." Grace shrugged. "That was then. People change. He doesn't love you anymore. He loves me." Sarah's legs nearly gave out. She clutched the edge of the counter, her breaths coming sharp and fast. "You're my sister. How could you betray me like this?" Grace's smile was cruel. "Because unlike you, I know how to make him happy." The door opened then, and David walked in as if summoned. He paused when he saw Sarah, then gave a slow, mocking smile. "Oh, so the little meeting happened." Sarah turned on him, fury shaking her. "How could you do this to me? With her? With my own sister?" David stepped closer, his face dark with contempt. "You want to know why? Because you're paranoid, bitter, and unlovable. That's why." Sarah gasped as if slapped. "Unlovable? After everything we've been through?" "Yes," David snapped. "You used to be fun, full of life. Now you're just a mess, crying all the time, questioning every move I make. Do you know how embarrassing it is to come home to you?" Her tears spilled. "So your answer was to crawl into bed with my sister?" He sneered. "Better than wasting away with someone who does nothing but drag me down. Grace is exciting. She believes in me. She makes me feel like a man again." Together, David and Grace stood before her. United, smug, cruel. Sarah had never felt so small, so utterly worthless. Their mother walked in then, hearing the raised voices. "What's going on here?" Sarah turned desperately to her. "Mom, please, tell them this is wrong. David is my husband. Grace is my sister. They've been betraying me." Her mother's face tightened, but not in anger toward David or Grace. Instead, she sighed, shaking her head at Sarah. "You're jealous again, Sarah. Always jealous of Grace. Always imagining things." Sarah staggered back. "Imagining? I saw them. They admitted it." Grace touched their mother's arm, her eyes filling with fake tears. "Sarah's just unstable, Mom. I feel sorry for her." David added, "She followed me the other night. Can you believe that? Stalking me like some obsessed teenager. She's losing it." Their mother pursed her lips, her voice firm. "Sarah, if you want to save your marriage, you need to stop this nonsense. Be a real wife. Fight for your family instead of attacking your sister." Sarah's chest heaved. "You're taking their side? Because they're telling the truth," her mother snapped. "You've always been too dramatic. David is a good man. If he strayed, maybe ask yourself why." Sarah broke down, sobbing. "Because my own sister seduced him, but no one listened." Grace hugged their mother, pretending to cry. David stood tall, the perfect man wronged by a hysterical wife. And Sarah was left alone, drowning in her own grief. Word spread quickly, as it always did in small towns. Sarah's neighbors began to whisper. The grocery store. She heard the snickers behind her back. "That's the Thompson woman, the one who accused her sister. She's crazy, you know. Poor David. Dealing with her paranoia." At Emily's school, the other moms avoided her. Lisa, her best friend, stopped answering her calls. Everywhere she went, Sarah felt eyes on her, pitying, mocking, condemning. Her once-perfect husband played the role of victim beautifully. Grace played the supportive sister, caught in the crossfire of Sarah's madness. And Sarah? She was left with the role of the unhinged wife, the bitter, jealous sister, the unstable mother. One sleepless night, Sarah sat at David's desk, her hands trembling as she rifled through drawers. She knew she was crossing a line, but what else did she have left? And then she found them. Bank statements, transfer slips. David had been moving money into Grace's account for months. Thousands of dollars. Enough to support her rent, her lifestyle, her everything. Her stomach twisted as she flipped through the pages, her heart pounding louder with each sheet. At the back of the drawer, she found something worse. A draft of divorce papers. Her name on them. Grace's name scribbled in the margins where he had practiced writing next of kin. And then, like a knife through the chest, she saw a note scrawled in David's handwriting. Custody of Emily must go to me. Grace and I can give her the stable home Sarah never could. Sarah collapsed onto the floor, the papers slipping from her hands. The room spun around her. Her husband wasn't just betraying her. He was planning to erase her, take her child, take her home, replace her with Grace. When David came home the next day, Sarah confronted him, her voice hoarse from crying. I found the papers, the transfers. You're planning to leave me, to take Emily, to live with her. David didn't flinch. So, what did you expect? You've made it impossible to stay. Grace and I will raise Emily better than you ever could. Her knees buckled. She's my daughter. You can't. She deserves stability, David cut in. Not a mother who's falling apart in public, embarrassing her family. Look at yourself, Sarah. Everyone already thinks you're unstable. No judge would give you custody. The room tilted. Her world cracked into pieces. David turned away coldly, pouring himself a drink as though nothing had happened. Grace walked, and minutes later, slipping her arm through his. She smirked at Sarah like a queen claiming her throne. Sarah pressed her fists to her chest, choking on sobs. She was cornered, stripped of dignity, betrayed by blood and marriage, abandoned by everyone she loved. As the days passed, Sarah became a ghost in her own life. People whispered when she walked by. Emily clung to her, confused and frightened, while David painted himself as the patient father, enduring a hysterical wife. One afternoon, Sarah overheard two neighbors on the sidewalk. Poor David, married to that crazy woman. Thank God Grace is there for him. Yes, Grace always was the prettier one, the stronger one. Sarah shut the window and collapsed to the floor, sobbing into her hands. She was mocked. She was pitted. She was abandoned. And yet, somewhere deep inside the wreckage of her heart, a tiny ember still burned. Because if David and Grace thought she was weak, if they thought they could destroy her completely, they hadn't seen what pain could create. The night of the charity gala arrived with an air of forced perfection. Crystal chandeliers glowed, over tables draped in white linen. The sound of clinking glasses mixed with cheerful chatter as some of the wealthiest families in town mingled in gowns and tuxedos. David Thompson thrived in places like this. He stood near the stage, his smile dazzling, his arm casually resting around Grace's waist. They looked like the golden couple, untouchable, admired, envied. Sarah stood in the corner, dressed simply in a navy gown she had owned for years. She felt invisible. People glanced her way, then turned quickly, whispering behind manicured hands. She could almost hear their words. There she is, the bitter wife, the jealous sister, the unstable one. Her palms were slick with sweat, her heart hammering against her ribs. She could still walk away. She could still stay silent, go home, and continue rotting in the shadows of their betrayal. But then she thought of Emily. Sweet, innocent Emily, who had once asked if Daddy's absence was her fault. Sarah's pain didn't matter anymore. Her daughter's future did. Tonight, the lies would end. When the charity organizer invited David to the stage to give a speech, he strode up confidently, clapping shoulders, shaking hands. His voice rang out smooth and strong. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. It's an honor to support this cause with such fine company, family, loyalty, and community. These are the values I've always stood for." Sarah's lips twisted. Family, loyalty. The hypocrisy sliced her like a blade. As the applause began, Sarah moved. Her legs trembled. Her throat felt raw, but she forced herself onto the stage before David could step down. The crowd murmured in confusion. Sarah Thompson was not a woman who sought attention. She was the quiet one, the forgettable one. What was she doing here? David's smile faltered. "Sarah," he hissed under his breath, "get off the stage. You're embarrassing yourself." She turned to the audience, her voice shaking at first but growing stronger with each word. "Family, loyalty, truth. These are words my husband just used. But I stand here tonight to tell you none of them apply to him." The room stilled. Glasses froze mid-air. All eyes locked on Sarah. Her hand slipped into her clutch and pulled out the gold bracelet. She held it high, the lights catching its shine. "This was found by my 7-year-old daughter in David's car, engraved with the initials LH. Does not belong to me." Gasps rippled through the room. Whispers rose like a tide. Sarah's eyes found grace in the crowd, her face draining of color. "LH," Sarah continued, her voice cutting through the noise. "Louise Harris, my sister." The woman standing right there. The audience erupted. Some covered their mouths. Others turned to look at Grace, who stood frozen, her hands trembling. David stepped forward, his voice harsh. "This is madness. She's lying. She's unstable." Sarah cut him off, her voice sharp. "Am I? Then let's talk about the money." From her clutch, she pulled the bank statements, waving them in the air. "For months David has been transferring thousands into Grace's account. Behind my back. Money stolen from our family, from me, from our daughter." The crowd roared with shock. David's business partners leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Sarah's tears burned hot, but she refused to break. "And while he told you all, I was paranoid. While he made me look like a hysterical fool, he was preparing divorce papers, planning to take my child away, planning to build a new life with my own sister." The ballroom descended into chaos. Guests whispered furiously, gasps echoing. Some shook their heads in disgust. Others looked at David as if he were a stranger. Grace stumbled forward, her voice shaking. "She's exaggerating. This isn't what it looks like. David and I..." "Don't lie," Sarah thundered, her voice breaking into raw power. "I saw you. I watched with my own eyes as you kissed my husband like a lover. You didn't just betray me, you betrayed your own blood." Their mother, standing near the front, went pale. Her lips trembled. She looked from Grace to Sarah, horror dawning on her face. "You defended her," Sarah cried, her voice cracking. "You told me I was jealous. You told me to be a better wife. And all this time, your precious Grace was stealing the man I built my life with." Her mother covered her face, shaking, unable to meet her daughter's eyes. David lunged for the microphone, his face red with fury. "This is slander. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I've built? She's trying to destroy me because she can't handle her own insecurities." But the crowd no longer believed him. His business partners whispered, their faces hardening. One of them stood abruptly. "You embezzled funds from our accounts, didn't you? That's what those transfers were." David's face drained of color. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Grace, realizing the tide had turned, yanked her arm free of his and backed away, shaking her head. "I didn't know. He lied to me too. I thought." But no one listened. No one believed her. Sarah stepped down from the stage, tears streaming, her body trembling. People reached for her, hands, murmuring apologies, shame filling their voices. Her mother rushed forward, grasping her arm. Sarah, I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. Sarah looked at her coldly, the years of being dismissed boiling over. You didn't want to know, because it was easier to believe I was crazy than to admit your golden daughter could betray me. Her mother's face crumpled, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Grace tried to speak, but the crowd silenced her with glares and whispers of disgust. Her name was tarnished, her charm gone, and David stood alone on the stage, his empire crumbling before his eyes, the mask ripped away. Sarah walked across the ballroom floor, the bracelet still clutched in her hand. Emily, who had been sitting quietly with a babysitter in the back, ran to her, wrapping tiny arms around her waist. "Mommy," Emily whispered. "Are we okay?" Sarah bent down, kissing her daughter's forehead, her tears soaking into Emily's hair. "Yes, baby. We're okay now." Mommy told the truth. She rose then, holding Emily's hand tightly, her spine straighter than it had been in years. She looked at David one last time, his face twisted with rage, fear, humiliation. "You tried to erase me," Sarah said, her voice steady. "You tried to make me believe I was worthless. But I am still here, and I am done crying for you." With that, she turned her back on him. The crowd parted as she walked out, whispers following her, not of mockery this time, but of respect. In the weeks that followed, David's empire collapsed. His business partners severed ties, lawsuits followed, his reputation ruined. Grace, once adored, became an outcast. Friends turned away. Family gatherings ended in silence and shame. Their mother, broken by guilt, begged Sarah's forgiveness, but the wound was too deep. Sarah kept her distance, choosing peace over reconciliation. David, stripped of wealth and status, found himself abandoned, even by Grace, who left him once. His power vanished, and Sarah rebuilt. Slowly, painfully, but with dignity. She poured her love into Emily, into creating a home free from lies. She started working again, rediscovering parts of herself she had buried for years under David's cruelty. People began to whisper again, but this time the whispers carried admiration. She survived. She fought back. She rose. One evening, Sarah tucked Emily into bed. The little girl clutched her doll and whispered, "Mommy, are you happy now?" Sarah smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "I am, sweetheart, because I finally remembered who I am." As she closed the door, Sarah thought of everything she had lost. Her husband, her sister, her family's trust. But none of it mattered anymore, because what she had gained was stronger than all of it, her self-respect. Blood can betray you, love can deceive you, but self-respect is the one thing no one can take, unless you give it away, and Sarah would never give it away again.